Flying chairs, burning cities, shoes so long you could trip and die. These aren't fairy tales, they're real history. If you think school left out the fun parts of history, you're right. These are the stories too weird, too wild, and too unforgettable to forget. Number 1. The man who flew in a lawn chair. Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing a man in a lawn chair floating by. Not a plane, not a helicopter, just a chair and a man holding on tight. His name was Larry Walters. He tied 42 giant balloons to his chair, each one filled with helium, the same stuff that makes party balloons float. He wanted to see the world from above. But instead of floating a little way up, he shot into the sky like a rocket, 16,000 feet high. That's higher than some airplanes. Pilots on the radio called in reports. There's something strange out here. It looks like a guy in a chair." Larry planned to pop the balloons with a pellet gun and float down gently. But guess what? He dropped the gun. He drifted across the city, finally landing in power lines and cutting off electricity for a whole neighborhood. Reporters asked why he did it. Larry just smiled and said, "A man can't just sit around." And just like that, he became a legend of the sky. Number 2. The Shout of Nika. In the year 532, the city of Constantinople was buzzing with excitement. People loved chariot races. 2 teams ruled the track, the blues and the greens. But cheering for a team wasn't just about sports. It was about politics, money, and power. One day, anger boiled over, both sides united, and the cheers of joy turned into shouts of rage. "Nika! Nika!" which means victory. They stormed through the city, burning homes, smashing buildings, and even trying to crown a new emperor. The emperor Justinian was terrified. He thought about running away. But his wife, Theodora, stood tall and said, "Better to wear the crown and die than to live without honor." Inspired by her courage, Justinian sent his generals to end the riot. Soldiers surrounded the people in the Hippodrome, the huge race stadium. By the end of the day, the cheers had stopped. 30,000 people lay dead. It was one of the darkest days the city had ever seen. But out of the ashes, Justinian rebuilt Constantinople stronger than before, including the glittering church called Hagia Sophia, which still stands today. Number 3. The Tragedy of Nanjing. In December 1937, war came to the city of Nanjing, then the capital of China. The invading army entered the city, and what followed was 6 weeks of terror. People were taken from their homes. Families were torn apart. Historians estimate that hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children lost their lives. But in the middle of this nightmare, there were a few shining lights. Foreigners living in the city set up a special safety zone. They worked tirelessly to protect as many people as they could, even while danger pressed in on all sides. Today, Nanjing remembers this time with a memorial hall filled with stories, photographs, and quiet spaces to reflect. It is a reminder of how fast peace can vanish and how important it is to remember the past so it can never be repeated. Number 4. The Man Who Wrote in Blood. In old China, punishments could be harsh. One of the most feared was the waist cut, where a person was cut in half. In 1734, a man named Yu Hongtu faced this punishment. The story goes that even after being struck, he was so determined to show his pain that he dipped his finger in his own blood and wrote the word "can," meaning tragic or sad, 7 times before collapsing. When the Emperor Yongzheng heard this story, he was horrified. How could a punishment be so cruel? He ordered that the waist cut be ended forever. Now, historians debate whether Yu truly wrote those words, or whether the tale was exaggerated to teach a lesson. But one thing is true. After that time, the punishment disappeared. It's a story of suffering so powerful, it changed the law of an empire. Number 5. The Mountain that exploded. Long ago, in the year 79 CE, Life in the towns of Pompeii and Herculaneum was peaceful. Children played in the streets, markets bustled, and people enjoyed baths and theaters. But nearby loomed a sleeping giant, Mount Vesuvius. One afternoon, the mountain awoke. Smoke and fire burst from the top, forming a cloud shaped like a giant pine tree. The ground shook. Ash and rocks rained from the sky. As night fell, the sky turned darker than midnight. People tried to flee, but waves of burning gas and ash swept down, burying whole towns. When explorers uncovered Pompeii many centuries later, they found homes, streets, and even food on tables, all frozen in time. It was as if life had stopped in a single moment. The eruption became so famous that today, all massive blasts like it are called Plinian eruptions, named after the young Roman who saw it with his own eyes, Pliny the Younger. Number 6, the shoes with silly toes. In the Middle Ages, fashion was wild. One of the craziest trends was shoes called poulaines. Imagine shoes with long, pointy noses that stuck out like swords. Some toes were so long they had to be tied to the knees with string just to walk. Kings and priests weren't impressed. In 1463, the English king passed a law. Only nobles could wear shoes with super long points, and even then, there were limits. Priests complained people couldn't kneel to pray in church. Ordinary folks wore pattens, wooden clogs that strapped under shoes. These kept their feet out of the muddy, dirty streets, which were full of trash and even sewage. The rich, meanwhile, hobbled around in their silly, pointy shoes. It shows that fashion has always been about showing off, even if it means tripping over your own feet. From a man flying in a chair to shoes with swords on the toes, from mountains that explode to riots, to wars and even legends that change the law. History is packed with stories that sound stranger than fiction, but they're real. So which story did you like the best? The brave empress, the flying chair, or the mountain that rained fire? Let me know. And don't forget, history is never boring if you know where to look.